Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. Welcome. This is the final session. I know we're all a little tired. It's been 24 hours, but this is a good session, so yeah, stick around.
All right, Vedant, take it away. You can start, and then I'll jump in my slides.
Cool. Okay, my name is Vedant. This is my mother, Shefali, and we're both going to be presenting about the experience gap. So let's have a little quick introduction about what that is. So we'll look at the experience gap. And what we mean by this is thinking about the gap between both students and teachers, as well as a gap between new people and professionals, and how people can operate within this experience gap, including during the future, whether you don't know what's going on. And we'll talk about what this means a little later on.
All right, so our session goals is basically we'll be sharing our story, and we will be diving deep into what experience gap really means, and uh, from from what we understand versus what we it actually is. And we will try to present different perspective towards experience gap, how it's perceived by students versus how it's perceived by professionals, and how it never goes away. You will always feel that experience gap throughout your student life as well as your professional life, and how you and we're going to provide you some framework on how you can become comfortable in that experience gap, and that will help you navigate all of those uncertain situations and will make you comfortable in an uncomfortable scenario. So, like it's mentioned here, we are going to be discussing some case studies, some overlooked gaps, some methods to solve it, how to apply it, and then some takeaway principles. So I'll start with my brief introduction. So my name is Shefali Maheshwari. I am Vedant's mom, and as a professional, I am a principal consultant in one of the software companies. So this is a cloud-based software company, and we have solutions for HCM, payroll, financials, you know, name it, any functional area that the organizations or corporates need. And my area is finance. So my background is a CPA, I'm a CA, and also a certified financial analyst. And I work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies and trying to solve their implementation issues, fit gap issues that they have, like use cases which they want to fit into the software. So I help and solve those issues on day-to-day basis. And today I'm grateful here to share my perspective about the experience gap, especially as I see it in the tech industry. And now that it's a lot more visible with AI and machine learning in the play, so like nobody knows enough about AI or machine learning to be dangerous, and we all experience that gap of knowledge, and how are we navigating that gap?
Yeah, and my name is Vedant. I'm a high school senior who's interested in media, storytelling, and understanding other students' perspectives. I host with Teach the Future, the We Teach the Future podcast. And with them, we've done over 21 episodes. We filmed them so far. And in these episodes, I talk with a lot of young voices who are creating big passion projects, as well as industry professionals who are creating these organizations to help youth. And the main idea of this podcast is to translate these foresight frameworks used into practical decisions that this audience can take away and do by themselves. And the way we do this is by leading a lot of guests off script, by asking questions like, which assumption of yours did you eventually get wrong? And when you face uncertainty, how do you react? We ask these types of questions to really get into the minds of how these young voices operate in terms of their passion projects. And as a result, we've had over 12 hours of in depth dialogue on learning and uncertainty. And now I'm going to go speak in 2 weeks at South by Southwest on this idea of young voices, education, and teaching foresight to young voices. So to start off, we have a quick temperature check. So if you go to menti.com and put in this 8-digit code, we can start off by understanding how each of you think about uncertainty. So the question is, when you face uncertainty, what is your default reaction? What do you do first? We have 5 options. The first is you avoid it entirely. Next is you wait until you're ready to jump in. Third is you ask for help and maybe get some guidance. Fourth is you're directly into it and you jump in. And the fifth is overthinking. So we'll give you about a minute and a half to think about your answer, put it in, and we'll talk about it.
Vedant, would you like to go ahead and share your screen instead?
Sure, I will.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay, good. So I'll start off with my own opinion. I personally always overthink. I never go to act first. I always try to think analytically of whether it's a right situation and for making the right decision, and I think a lot. Yeah, I want to know, Shefali, what do you think? What would you do in this scenario?
Yeah, so in my workspace, I don't really have an option to avoid or to wait until we are ready. And like I said, in the AI world now, you have to ramp up fast and furious. So there's a team of so many people, and some of them may raise their hand, some of them may not raise their hand. Those who raise their hand, they shine, and those who raise their hand, some of them are successful and some of them are not. So if they strategize it right, they jump in and they strategize it right on how to learn this real fast and then train the others. I think those are the ones that are at the forefront and are successful. So my usual strategy is to jump in. I try to learn from whatever possible, internal resources, external resources, brainstorm with people, test, ask for help, and then mostly it works. But yeah, that's what I do.
That's great. Yeah, let's hear about from other people. What do you think? Anyone who want to volunteer, just give a quick reason for why you picked your option.
I want to give my opinion. When you face uncertainty, what is your default reaction? Ask for help because not always I can do something wrongly, and I ask to other people to have recommendations to what can be my best option. So I going to be agree with people that give me the recommendation because if I take, I don't know what did I do. So I ask to other people what I can do. That's my opinion.
Yeah, very smart. A lot of people do ask for help and get feedback from their advisors. So yeah, it's a very good option there. Anyone else who have a different opinion, maybe overthinking, avoiding, waiting until you're ready?
Um, I guess if I could choose multiple options for this question, I would choose multiple answers for this because I've got a process where I immediately overthink. Then I either go talk with my parents about it to ask for help, or I procrastinate on it. So it's a mixture between avoid and wait until ready. But yes, the first reaction would definitely to be look at the stakes that's there. If the best case scenario is what's the worst case scenario, what is the pros and cons? Why am I in this situation in the first place? What is the root cause of the uncertainty? That I think is my default reaction.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, and everybody, most of us react that way. But then, you kind of learn over time that that's not most efficient. And that's where your experience comes in. And hopefully the slides that are following are going to help shift that mindset. So that's what me and Vedant are aiming for. Alrighty, Vedant, do you want to take this one?
Yes.
Am I sharing? Hold on, let me go ahead and share. I think I gave the share to you.
Cool. So the reason we asked that question in the first place is because all 5 of those options were really feelings rather than actions in itself. So we're going to talk about why that's important right here. So the experience gap in itself is a gap between what is expected of you and what you currently know. And this isn't a temporary thing, it's rather a permanent thing. It shows up at every level of age, career, and seniority level. And the future actually creates more gaps even faster than our skill sets are ready to, have them be ready. And an interesting part about this is this. As a student, I can see that the experience gap in my school really lies between students who know the material and students who don't know the material. And it feels like missing knowledge is my experience gap. As a leader, you might find that uncertainty is your experience gap. We all experience it in a different way. And the goal is not to close this gap, but rather function inside of it. So there's 2 main types of experience gaps. The first is a learning gap, which is where you have a student and an expert, and it's closed by having more practice, education, and mentorship. The second type of gap is something a little more complicated, and it's called the frontier gap. This is like an expert compared to the future, where no one has a true answer, and not enough practice, education, or skills can close that gap. For example, the future of AI. We are all quite uncertain about what that could be, so that's called a frontier gap. So talking about the learning gap, that's the first one. It can be solved through education, learning skills, and more practice. And in my podcast, I've interviewed a lot of students who are trying to close this gap. The first is Ayush, who's teaching digital computer skills to underserved youth in India. Though he does this is he creates videos on coding and other computer skills, and he shows it to a lot of young elementary students. The second is Vershank, who lives in Dubai. And in his school, he made a quick futures literacy club where he's teaching students all these Foresight skills so that they can learn these skills and therefore become more educated. And finally is an adult whose name's Shai, and he's leading this UNICEF Young Foresight Fellowship across 40 countries, where he's trying to bring youth into policy decisions made by largely adults. So we can see across different levels of students, scholars, and also adults, they're all trying to close this learning gap through education and more skill sets.
All right, so now diving into the frontier gap, which is more of an unknown area. And like I said in my last session, that I have a philosophical bent of mind and I try to apply it everywhere. So that's what we have tried to do here as well. So basically, if you think about it, frontier gap is not a gap between a beginner or an expert. It is a gap between an expert and the future. Now, this gap, even the experts don't know enough about it, right? So for instance, many leaders today are being asked to integrate AI into their companies. Now they are expected to lead. No one has done this before, and there is no playbook, there is no past information. So how do you navigate this gap? So this gap basically is what we are referring to as the frontier gap. So the way it is closed is by experimenting, deciding, adapting. So when a student thinks that I just need more experience and I will feel ready, that kind of works for the learning gap. But from the frontier gap, one can never be fully ready. So I want to do a little segue into innovation, and that's gonna then weave into our frontier gap terms. So we'll take a step back and we'll say, now let's imagine what we mean by innovation. So whenever we talk about innovation, we think like some scientist is going to discover a new thing or some founder is going to build a new product. But if you really think about it, innovation at its core is simply building what has not existed before. And the moment you try to build something that has not existed before, you're faced with an infinite experience gap because there is no precedence, there is no perfect data, there is no certainty. You cannot study your way into completing what's unknown, into defining what's unknown, into clarity, because there is no precedence, there is no certainty there, and no one has answers. So that changes how you think about the readiness. So you can never be ready for situations that are uncertain, situations which you face at the innovation frontier, at the frontier where or you can call it at the edge of data, or at the edge of what is already available. So only at that edge, the growth happens. Only at that edge of unknown, the innovation happens. So when we hear about growth mindset, we usually think and that we should be improving something in it. So now that part of it, but that's a part of it. But in the uncertain environments, again, growth mindset is something that's deeper and it's linked to innovation. Now, it means comfort with exposure. So comfort with learning in public. It means being willing to feel uncomfortable without quitting, without withdrawing. And because growth is not just intellect, it's kind of an emotion. So the real shift in this, instead of avoiding the gap, we have to step into it deliberately. And we'll be talking about a framework that'll help you step into that gap and be comfortable in that gap and grow there.
So talking about stepping into this gap, this is basically done by taking initiative. The way you take initiative is by doing 4 main things. First, you should volunteer before you even feel ready to do so. This means taking a first step into doing something which you might not feel you're fully prepared for. Second is to lead small projects that stretch your skills. Instead of taking on one massive project and trying to directly address that, start with smaller, more manageable projects and then build up to that large project. Third, ask questions early, not after panic. This is basically you're trying to brief yourself initially on what you need to know and what you're curious about, instead of doing it when there's an emergency and you need to know the answer. And finally, treat these gaps as reps. You'll see a lot of education gaps and frontier gaps in your life, and treat all of them as just simply practice for the next one. So don't be scared if you're facing some of these gaps right now. And one way we can show this in real life is something I did recently with my school team. My school team is in charge of all the media responsible for our school, and we were tasked with making a Netflix-style documentary for our basketball team. And the point was to showcase the real, true story of these varsity basketball players. I was used to asking a lot of great questions to these youth entrepreneurs on my own podcast, but bringing it into this professional documentary was quite an overwhelming thing. So I applied this initiative framework. I initially started out by reaching out for interviews before I felt ready to do so. I talked to a lot of these coaches as well as players and just started filming their reactions. Next, I made small hype videos for the past 3 years. That's something I did for my school and my media team. So I already felt prepared to make some type of larger project. Third, I asked questions to my team about the narrative we're trying to tell. Instead of going at it as simply a Netflix documentary, I looked at it as a story that needed to be told. So I asked questions like, what is the most important thing to talk about, and how can we accurately show that? And finally, I realized that there was a major gap in professional experience. My leadership teacher is a professional videographer, and he knows what he's doing when it comes to video. We are simply high school students trying to make this type of Netflix documentary, so we understood that there was a major experience gap there. But we exposed ourselves to more gaps by filming more games and more interviews, and trying to understand what it actually takes to make a proper story and video.
Awesome. So now I want to reflect upon this gap that we are talking about, the frontier gap or the innovation at the edge of the innovation, how it applies to organizations versus individuals. Now we have talked about these topics already, these aspects already, but I just want to bring it together in one slide. So how does leadership look like in this AI era? So the leaders who are at the forefront of innovation, they have no playbook, and they, like I said, have to learn fast. They have to set direction for others, and they have to reduce the fear of their followers. So this is a very powerful line which says, in unpredictable time, mindset matters the most. So if the time is predictable, management is what matters, but in unpredictable time, our mindset would matter the most. So here we have tried to put together like how a leader would move in an uncertain situation. So what methodology in general they use is they are going to recognize some patterns. Then they are going to make decisions based on their core values. Now, these core values could be society's development, what is best for the community, what is best for the employees, or is profitability my core value? So every organization and every leader has a core value, and they are going to be making those decisions with that filter of the core value. And then while they're making that decisions, they have to calibrate the risk, recalibrate it. They have to make sure there is an emotional stability, that they are not fearing, and they are not letting others also fall into emotional situations like panic or fear, and they're leading the way. And then they may not have the perfect map or the perfect future picture in their mind yet, but still they have clarity about what is the next step. So one step at a time, they are moving ahead, and they are motivating others to move with them.
So this is the final framework we came up with. This is something which can address the experience gap and also the frontier gap. So it's called RAISE, and it's made out of 5 parts. The first is to recognize emotion. This is the very first, most important part you should do when you're given some type of experience gap. Second is to analyze your facts versus your assumptions. You're always going to make some type of assumption, and you always need to know what you actually know and what you're just assuming is happening. You need to separate reality from your actual story. Third is you need to identify the next smallest step you can take. Not the full solution, but rather just the next clear move that you can take. Fourth is to speak direction and set expectations. You should tell people what is the next step. Even if it's small, having clarity around your team reduces a lot of anxiety, and it builds a lot of trust within this process. And finally, the last step is to evaluate and upgrade your approach. After you act and you do this step, you should reflect and think about what worked, what did not work, and you need to improve for the next round. So this is a framework which you can use, and I think it's really helpful. So we have the framework in the corner there, the bottom right-hand corner, and we have this quick scenario which you can refer to the framework to try to solve. And this is the scenario. Your organization, or some organization you have, has recently adopted a brand new AI tool, and you are asked to lead the rollout and train your team in just 2 months. You are not an expert, there's no clear playbook or steps you need to take, and your team has mixed reactions across the board for this tool. And you have to present your plan in 1 week. Given this scenario, what is your first move that you would take? You can apply this RAISE framework to figure out, your first step and what you would assume, what you should not assume, and you can write down your short answer on this Mentimeter. And we'll come back in 2 minutes and talk about it.
I'm going to stop sharing with that, and now you can.
I think you can keep sharing because they need to see the prompt.
I see. Okay. Do you want to go ahead and share now?
We'll give like another 30 seconds for them to answer.
Okay. You can also use this QR code for Mentimeter. You can simply scan and you'll be directed to the site.
So I'll start out with what I would do in like a quick 20 seconds. So, given the scenario, I know there's a lot of new things that have come into this team and also a lot of people who have mixed reactions. So, I think first what I would do is think about what other people think about. So, I'd ask them for their opinions and see where they are standing and what their current opinions are. That's my first step that I would do. Shefali, what is your first step? What would you do?
My first step is going to be identifying what's the smallest next step I can take. I would try to break down the situation into smaller pieces, and then which of those is going to help me navigate to the next step.
Sounds good. Okay. So, looking at what we have here, the answers, we have a lot of analyze, evaluate, recognize emotions, identify the next step, and two paragraphs here. One is we have to understand our assumptions and limiting beliefs, then we can move forward strategically. Good. And the second one, also recognize emotions where everyone is at, meet them where they are, and don't stay there too long to acknowledge, just come up with a plan to move forward. Yeah, these are all great answers. All make sense. Yeah, I think we all got the idea.
All right, so now we want to leave you with a final principle that you can carry with you. So always remember that this gap of experience never closes. It shifts, it changes from a kind of gap to another kind of gap. Learning gap we can always conquer, but the frontier gap that we explained is always going to stay, and we have to learn to be comfortable with that gap. And how we do is that we are ready, and our readiness is gonna help us break it down into smaller steps, and then those smaller steps then we can iterate again and again, and that's going to make us comfortable with any uncertain situation. And one line, if we can remember here, is that our future lives inside the gap. And if we really want to grow, if we really want to innovate, we have to get comfortable with that experience gap, and we'll have to learn how to navigate it successfully.
So, quick closing Mentimeter we'll do is the last question. Let's see. In one word, what mindset helps you walk into uncertainty? So, we have some examples like adaptability, resilience, courage, curiosity, and ownership.
You can go ahead and share with them. It looks good when the words pop up on the word cloud.
So we see curiosity is big, courage is big, Someone said trust in the chat. Someone said faith as well. Resilience as well. That's good. Grit.
Go ahead, share. We can't see the Mentimeter. I can see it now. Perfect.
For this one, I would say definitely curiosity. It's one which can get you into any situation and help you walk in with uncertainty because it lets you be curious and always be kind of like a student trying to understand what's going on. Shefali, what would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. So curiosity and having a positive attitude towards anything new, not trying to scare away from it. And that is going to help you have that innovation mindset and the growth mindset. And at the same time, make sure that you are comfortable with any kind of experience gap you are currently going through and knowing that that's going to stay and that's going to push you to learn newer things.
Yeah, and we see another person put endless possibilities. That's a really good one as well. Good. Anyone else want to share what they picked and why they picked it?
Yeah, I'll share. I said faith, and it's really enveloped into other words, and I say that to say that because I have had success in the past with making an initiative successful, that I have a measure of faith in myself, even if I don't have all the answers, that between perhaps my work ethic and the wonderful people I have around me, that I will arrive at something that is successful. So I think that that's why, for me, faith was an easy word to use.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Faith is a big one. Having belief in yourself, knowing that you've done something like this before, is a really good one.
And Vedant, do you remember our recent podcast?
Yes.
In fact, I shared one of my favorite quotes. So as you can tell, I'll read the quote and then you can probably guess which one I wrote. When you become comfortable with uncertainty, infinite possibilities open up in your life. That.
Yeah, very smart. Was there like a situation in which that quote kind of came up for you? How does that relate to your experiences?
I think, are you asking me or everyone? I would say my current walk and direction in life I feel very led by uncertainty, and though there is some apprehension and the unknowingness, I have to just say that it'll all work out, and that it finds a way of working itself out. Even just patience, even though in the immediacy it may not feel that way. So thank you so much. Yeah, for letting me share.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I agree with that. Anyone else want to share why they put maybe curiosity or courage?
I put in curiosity because partly because I can't help myself from asking questions, and partly because I think it is only by exercising curiosity that I can let fear not overwhelm me and rather be led by marvel rather than fear. Which is also why I feel curiosity and courage will always go hand in hand. There is no curiosity without courage.
Yes, I agree with that statement. There's no curiosity without courage. I think both of those go hand in hand. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, everybody, your experiences. And I think in a grown-up world, we all kind of face so much uncertainty. And I would really like the kids and the students to understand that be comfortable with it, because it's not gonna go away, it's gonna grow. And the more we have strategies to deal with it and be comfortable in that situation, the more successful we are gonna be, and more at peace we are gonna be.
Exactly. That's good. Anyone else want to share for this one before we move on to
I
our?
can chime in.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I resonate with a lot of what you all said. Like I put great, like very connected to other like resilience, endless possibilities, curiosity as well. For me, I feel the biggest thing is about pushing forward with unknown and unexpected results, because like personally and professionally I deal with sustainability a lot, so you can't really grapple with the outcome like in the short term at all, and how do you keep having that purpose and even just confidence and hope to deal with that scope, even like nothing show up like in your surroundings. So for me, great is like a combination between purpose, resilience, and uh long time hope.
Yeah, I like you said
And I
long time
think
hope. Yeah, it's good.
yes. And I really want to echo back with what Shefali and Vedant you said earlier on in the presentation. About asking questions, because sometimes like we don't even know the exact question like we're gonna ask. There are no such questions that can be asked at the time that you were uncertain or you don't know what to do. And I don't know if it's too big a question to bring about, but if we don't have a question to ask, like what would be the first step, or the way to tackle with the situation? Maybe questions for everyone.
Oh, no, absolutely. And sometimes, that is my measure of knowing. So I work with a lot of, like I said, corporate customers, and they are trying to learn this new software, new things. So how do I judge if they are, and where do I meet them in their journey? Like, are they learning? Are they understanding? So the thing that I ask myself, that are they asking the right questions? So if somebody starts asking the right questions, that means they are on the right track. So just from the questions, you can understand where a person is on the journey. And I find that very helpful.
Anyone else want to share for this question? Okay, good. So what I want to do is I want to go back to the previous question, because now that we've understood this framework and understood what our mindset really is, going back and seeing what we said for the previous question is I think is going to be really interesting. So I want to kind of hear from the people who wrote here, just to see what your mindset is when you talk about your first move into this new uncertain situation. So this one was actually added just now. Who wrote this one? Do you know who the author is?
I did.
Good. Yeah. Can you explain what you mean by this and kind of where it came from?
I've been reading a lot of news about the cost that we are paying for AI in terms of the amount of water it's consuming. And as a creative who's been trying to have a voice, whether that be as a writer, as a music composer, or wherever, I've seen the amount of jobs that have been replaced with the onset of AI in the age. And just the fact that we are depending on AI for creative pursuits, which are the most human um, instincts to have. I personally protest I am completely against AI. I know with the job market, it would be much easier for me to apply for roles to train AI, but ideologically, I'm against it. So my first instinct would be to protest. Like emotionally, my first instinct would be to protest and just walk away from the post if it's demanding me to work with AI. Which is why if I'm a leader, I would want to talk with the people I will be working with, because if it's received mixed responses, that means that there are some people in the team who feel like me, who feel hesitant about AI, who feel afraid that AI is going to take over their jobs, who are scared of their future. And if possible, I would like to talk with the higher authorities about the use of AI in the workplace at all. That's where it came from.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I kind of have a follow-up question to you. If the team you're working with kind of have the opposite opinion of you, if they think that AI is really great and they really want to work with it, how would you go about that?
I would let them have their opinion and I would walk away with my opinion because, like I said, my first instinct would be to walk away from using AI in the first place. I feel like just as the boycott movement is working with the wars, boycotting AI could actually be something we take up in the future just for the environmental cost of it.
Very good. Yeah, I like that response a lot. Let's look at another one. Here we have this one. I like this one too. We need to understand our assumptions and limiting beliefs. Then you can move forward strategically. Who is the author of this one? Who wrote this one?
I guess I did, Vedant. That's because, that's part of what we do here at Futures Literacy. Before we're able to dive in to learn about futures literacy, or to when we need to imagine, when we need to activate our imagination muscle, everyone goes straight to the doom and gloom, right? So if we get the doom and gloom out of the way, then we can start to imagine the future we want to live in. Oh, you're on mute.
You're muted.
Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. Makes sense. I like that one
There's
too.
a comment in the chat about the
Yeah,
link.
the link. I think the link is there. Okay. Good.
Okay, perfect.
The code is here as well if you want to add your response to. This one I like a
I,
lot too.
I'd like to add a little about what one of the comments about AI that we were discussing, right? And like I said many times that I have that philosophical bent of mind. So what I feel is that AI is as good as the data that's available, right? So it cannot imagine beyond the data that exists. So if we let AI decide based on the data that exists, we and our minds would be freed to then work about things that do not exist, which is innovation. So then human brains will be left to do nothing except innovation because we don't have to do the monotonous things, the things that we have already discovered, the things we have already figured out, and we have fed to AI, and now AI can do all that for us. Now, what's next? So slowly, if the AI and machine learning goes like this, humanity or our mindset is gonna shift towards purely innovation versus trying to, like in my field, create balance sheets. AI can create a balance sheet and financial reports for me. I don't have to do that. I can innovate more in finance and accounting to make that sphere a better place or the world a better place. Uh, rather than trying to just learn what exists and then exist. Then my existence simply depends upon, or my survival in the professional world simply depends upon that learned knowledge or the existing knowledge versus me innovating and doing something new. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense a lot. I understand that. The innovation is definitely a big part. Trying to go beyond just regular work. Trying to understand how you can plan for the future. I think that's pretty important. This is good. Who was the one that wrote this one?
It's me, Ethan.
Good. Can you explain why you wrote?
I choose resilience because for me, resilience is not just resist to a drought or a flooding. For me, resilience, climate resilience is pace of the pace of the scared or the afraid to the action. So for me, resilience is something important and essential in all my talks, my walks, my words that I use. So it's important for me the resilience, and I choose it because always I use it in my presentations.
Awesome. I love what you have written. And I think we all can apply that and learn from that.
Yes, perfect. We'll look at one more. Let's see. We looked at these two. Did we look at these two? Yeah, we did. Yeah, I think we'll look at this one. Who was the one that wrote this one?
I guess I wrote two, Vedant. I got really into it. What was I forget what what was I answering that made me write this?
Yeah, it was the question about you were given this new AI tool. Your team is kind of mixed reactions. How would you react? How would you do your? How would you? What was the first step you would take?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, then I do still stick by this. I guess I do still stick by this answer. But the moving forward with a plan would be interesting to discuss. And I know this isn't really a debate, but it's like use AI, don't use AI, order from Amazon, don't order from Amazon. I'm torn, right? Let's talk about it. Let's find a way out. Let's find a way through.
Can I add to Lisa's? Because I think it's relevant because we're team members, right? And so we have a unique perspective here in this call. And that was my first move as well, is to engage the team because that's how we work. I think that situationally, oftentimes your first move is really dependent on the environment that you're in. And it would be very difficult for any implementation of any technology, AI, or even the pencil. If the team was not willing to understand what it is we were doing, how we were applying it, what the benefit of it was, and to the point of the group here, with respect to AI, we definitely have a spectrum of ethical standards and beliefs around AI, and it will impact how we move forward. So I definitely think that for at least for Teach the Future and our team, our first move is always engage the team first and then decide what we're going to do next.
And if you, this is the last session, but because we've been here mostly the whole 24 hours, I can say a handful of sessions really dealt with this particular topic on AI and efficacy and use and don't use and privacy and many other things that dealt that AI is just a singularity in the larger realm, in the larger picture. And I will say, Vedant, if you look at the South by Southwest EDU lineup, I can't give you a percentage, but a hunch tells me 85 to 90% of the topics are around the use of, or the topic around AI and technologies. So it is a hot topic. It's a hot target. It's moving. And as the leaders of this, you guys really put something really creative together. I mean, your framework, that you can, this is authentic to your vision in sharing this topic. And I'm curious, Shafil and Vedant, what I guess if you had a goal, what was the goal? And how do you feel now after running how do you feel now with the results? How does it sit? I guess you heard from us, but what about, I want to hear from you two now. I don't know. Is that okay? Can we do that?
Yep, absolutely. Vedant, you want to go first? What you were thinking? Like I said, I have a philosophical bent of mine, and I add philosophy to finance, which kind of doesn't go together, but I try to fit it in. So with that, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think for this session, the idea was to talk about what I learned from the podcast, since hearing all these young entrepreneurs try to give their own ideas about foresight and what they've learned. And this framework was really based off of a lot of their input, which is like recognize emotion, analyze facts, find the next smallest step, speak in direction, and also evaluate your approach. So yeah, it's all built on what this community has really came up with and had experiences with. So yeah.
Yeah, and from my perspective, when Vedant came up with this idea, and I started questioning, like, what do you really mean by experience gap? And what he described to me was more from a perspective of a student and, as a beginner in a specific field. But I kind of felt that, all right, I have 20 years of experience and I feel the same way. I feel the same experience gap whenever something new comes up. And like I said, AI is now the next big thing. Nobody knows, and we are supposed to ramp up real fast and supposed to learn it. And when I see the leaders in my organization, they seem to know it all. Like, and that's a question that I ask him. Like, we all started in this together. How come they know more and they are able to lead the others? Um, it's definitely collaborative, but they definitely have a better sense of direction of where we are going. They have their values set, that we in my organization we call it responsible AI. So they have set a direction, they have set a tone, they have set a core values around which we are going to develop our products. And now we do subject matter deep dive, but we carry it on with that philosophy. So that's where I started questioning that, the leaders who are truly leading this movement, basically they are learning it real fast, and they are adapting to it in a way that they can understand what's the next best move, what is the framework that I'm working in, because nobody knows what the answers are, where this AI is taking us. And I'll say that now, right now, it's in a really infancy or a nascent stage where the products that we see um, are not what we want them to be. They are still like not as per expectation, but I think we are getting there. So that got me thinking into, why are we applying the experience gap to a beginner versus expert situation? And we can also apply the same gap to an expert versus a unknown situation, which like an infinite gap. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's awareness, conversations. It doesn't stop here. Oh,
Yep, absolutely.
I guess Vedanta, and I guess this is your session. I don't know if you have anything else or you want to take any last comments. I know we're going to wrap up here.
Yeah, I think we have one raised hand. Yeah, Ethan, I think you can go ahead and give a comment.
Okay, I want to give my words in this beautiful class. So, thank you, Lisa, for letting me participate in this class for you all, and thank you to all for take the time to listen all week. So, I want to give my last words in this class. So, first, a principal, I want to win this fellowship, and that's possible. So with this, I can do a mind bridges to my Navi community, Ugai Kare, how we say. And always I've been talking with bird watchers to experience, but this was a beautiful experience and I believe the best. So with this, I learned about 3 R's: reuse, reduce, and recycle. But this is not just lonely. We need to work together. Sometimes when I talk about my participation in the Panama Bird Festival, in the Global Big Day, so was something beautiful to share. And sometimes the other activities, the climate change, the climate education, and all it. I learned that the climate change is not just a threat, it's a opportunity to work together. Opportunity to work together. So I learned that drought, the climate change is a threat, but not just a threat, opportunity. But when the drought back, children cannot go to the school, and if they go, so so pays something so bad. Was a real experience. Sorry, I don't have a good internet. So was a beautiful experience, how I say. Was beautiful. I remember that times when I been with this of my country, Panama, in the minus. So was a strike for the good of the forest and nature. The reforest with my communities, and I like it. The bird watch all it in my class. I talk about all my experience, the young people, young leaders in my community, the mind brightest, the bird watching in my communities, and all it connect with nature, with other bridges for my community, so all people can be following me, who as an example, and how I always say, if the birds disappear, the nature loses his voice and we lose our future. Then God will teach me that the nature hug, the nature teach, and the nature talk. Always I'm going to remember that beautiful words that she said, and was a beautiful experience. So thank you to all to listen to me.
Thank you so much. I think that's a really good ending. I think we're going to end on those beautiful words of nature, because that really brings us back to the disruption of AI, maybe, and we gotta keep safe nature, environment, restoration, birds. So Vedant, Shefali, thank you so much. I want you guys to have, is there a final word? And then we'll have Eldana, she's ready to close us out as soon as you all are ready.
Just to wrap up, thank you everybody for listening to us. And Vedant, you can add something.
Yeah, thank you for this. I know it's the last session. We're all tired. So yeah, appreciate you all listening to this session. Really appreciate it. Make sure to, think about uncertainty, this experience gap in your own life. And yeah, it's a real thing.
Thank you both for this session. I really, really enjoyed it. I think I really loved the framework. I think it's very powerful to think about how you can work and collaborate with others based on that philosophy. So thank you so much.
Thank you to all.
Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you so much, Bhakti, Shafil, Sergio, Eldana, Jose, Jade, Kaizen, and Vedant. With that, Eldana, will you close us out for our 2026 World Futures Day, 24 hours later?
Yes. So as we wrap up this inspiring session, thank you all for being a part of World Futures Day. Young voices, your perspectives and participation have made this conversation truly meaningful. The journey ends here for now. For quick announcements, if you enjoyed today, this kind of learning doesn't stop here. It continues through Teach the Future's global online Youth Futures community. Right now, we're offering the following learning experiences. Campaigns for Change builds award-winning projects using future literacy skills. Join Young Voices FutureWise Institute. We apply these learnings directly to your active projects and future initiatives. As a part of World Futures Day, there's a special discount code to register. If you're not ready to take part in a learning experience yet, you can still stay connected. We'd love to hear about your experience, share your feedback, and receive your badge of participation. Please fill out our survey. I'll share the links in the chat now.
Okay, a quick group picture. I don't know, Kaizen, Eldana, Sergio, are you guys ever able to come on camera? Otherwise, we are good to go. Otherwise, we could be good to go. All right, I'll count us down. Eldana, was there anything else?
No, I'm gonna turn my camera on right now.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. Okay, Sergio, Jose. All right, I'm gonna count us down. 3, 2, 1. Okay, last one. So like make it big, make it exaggerative. I don't know. Yeah. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Nice. Thank you, Chef. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.